up, everybody? Welcome to Third and Longhorn. This is our second ever live show. Last year was our first one at Hook'em House. We appreciate y'all coming out. I'm joined by a bunch of Texas legends, and I exist. My name is Nick Shuley. This to my left is Jeremy Hills.
Yeah.
Rod Babers.
Hold on, man. Hold on, start over.
You gonna run it back, Jay?
Jeremy gets in his feelings. Can we make this a little bit better? Jeremy Hills, everyone. There we go. We got to cater to the ego a little bit. Rod Babers.
Let's go, baby.
Fozzy Whittaker. Derrick Johnson. Alex Okafor. And you guys know this man right here, Colt McCoy.
Yeah!
So since I already introduced him, I'm going to do another introduction. This man, you guys have a seat for this one because this is going to take a while. He was a 5-year quarterback at the University of Texas who went 45-8 in 53 career starts. His number 12 jersey was retired on October 30th, 2010. His 45 victories are the most in NCAA history. UT's only two-time All-American quarterback, two-time Walter Camp Foundation Player of the Year, Davey O'Brien Award winner. He holds 47 school records, folks. Colt McCoy is a legend. Welcome, Colt. And so we always start off the show the exact same way, and it's how did you get to Texas? Obviously, I think a lot of people know your story, Colt, but can you take us through the process of what got you to the University of Texas and why you chose Texas?
I don't know how I got to UT, first of all. I joke with these guys sometimes because we had the smallest recruiting class to come to UT. There was 13 guys. Normally it's like in the 20s.
Yeah.
And it was Jamal, it was Roy Miller, it was everybody you could think of. Yeah. And of those 13 guys, I think like 9 of us went to the NFL.
Hey, nice.
But when we were the number 2 ranked recruiting class in the country until I signed. I was unranked, and so we went from number 2 to number 10. And they always gave me grief for that. I was like, just give me a chance. If you give me a chance, I'm gonna make sure we'll be just fine. Yeah, I grew up in a small town in West Texas. There's 700 people where I grew up, so leaving there is not that common. And I came to a football camp at UT, and they had all the guys they were wanting to come to UT, like at the main field, DKR. They had all the other ones over at the Denius Fields. So that's where I started. And by the end of the day, I worked my way over here, and I'm walking out to the parking lot. And somebody says, hey, Coach Brown wants to see you in his office. I'm a junior at the time. I'm not getting recruited at all. And so I'm like, okay, my dad's with me. We woke up early from West Texas and drove in that day. It was our one-day camp. And Coach Brown sits us down and it's like, what's your name? Where are you from? Never heard of it. I've never heard of it. What? Like, what's your school? I said, Jim Ned High School. He's like, never heard of it. And he's like, but I thought, young man, I thought you had a good day today. We want to stay in touch. I'm like, okay, like that'd be awesome. So nothing really happens. We get in the car. It's like Saturday afternoon. We drive home. We get up for church the next morning. As we're walking out the door, there's a FedEx overnight on the front steps. It's a handwritten letter from Coach Brown that says, here's your scholarship to come play at UT.
Man.
So, Coach Brown took a flyer on me. I will forever be grateful for that.
That worked out okay for Texas and for you, I think.
Yeah.
So then talk to me. So then fast forward, you get to the University of Texas. Is it a little bit different at practice than it was at Jim Ned High School? How was your first day at practice at the University?
The first person I saw was Brian Orakpo.
Oh. What did he say to you?
Voice of God. How
did he say it?
Hey, boy. I can't even go that low. I turned around and walked out of the room. I was like, this is not for me. If that guy plays defensive end, like, he's coming for me. I can't. I'm out. You know, I knew when I came, I needed a year to redshirt. Like, redshirt was probably the best thing that happened for me. You know, when you grow up in a small town, I was sort of a late bloomer, and you played all the sports, and you never had an off season, and so I was probably 170 pounds soaking wet, right? Like, you can't put anybody out there like that. Like, I had a lot of work to do, and tons of people helped me along the way, kept me on track, pushed me, I'm forever grateful to so many guys in that camp. So, yeah, without the redshirt year, no shot, no.
Well,
and then I'm playing behind Vince Young, who's like, they just won a Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
He's, he's the man, and I did not fit in. I had to earn everything I got.
Yeah. Before you became a legend, you just said you sat behind a legend, Vince Young. What did you learn from Vince Young in that 1 year?
I learned that I do not have the God-given ability that he has. Like, I played basketball in high school. I love basketball. I had a couple of scholarships to go play basketball in college. He was like, hey, we're going to Gregory. Why don't you come over? I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. I go in there, and he's just windmilling everything. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't hang with this. Like, let me shoot a three every now and then. I don't play defense that much, so it really wasn't for me.
Yeah. Golly.
Well, piggybacking off of that, right? You sit behind Vince Young. You learn what it takes to be a winner. You are part of that 2005 national championship team. But then the following year, it was your turn, right? You take everything that you were able to accumulate during that 05 season, and you become the freshman player of the year, national freshman player of the year, Big 12 freshman of the year, as well as newcomer of the year. Something rubbed off of what you learned in year number one in that redshirt time frame that allowed you to do what you did. What was it that kept you motivated? What was it that kept you grinding to be able to say, hey, I'm just only scratching the surface, even though it's my first year as a true starter?
Yeah, right. Well, listen, like, I had to answer a lot of questions about myself, first of all. Like, do I have the whatever to go out there and do that, right? And you had to go through that process. But one thing I know at UT is you have to earn your job every year. Yeah. There's nothing was ever handed to me. And so the first year I was battling out with another guy, and we were neck and neck, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I just know that, like, I was focused on that. And the second thing that I learned from Vince is, like, I can't be Vince Young. Like, there's no way, but I need to create an edge somewhere. If that's, from a schemes standpoint, from an understanding defenses, from understanding, like, on offense what we're trying to like, my edge was up here, like 90% mental, 10% physical, and so I knew that about myself, but I needed to go out there and prove it. And then the second part of that was I knew I had great players around me and great coaches, right? We were blessed with so many good defensive coordinators. Often I got to play for Greg Davis the whole time, and I was just confident in everything around me. So if I could focus on being the best version of me and bringing my best to the table, like, I knew everybody else was going to do their job, and that really helped me our freshman year. And everybody was used to winning. Right. The expectations were to win every time. I wore that. I didn't care if I threw 5 touchdowns or if I threw none. If we won, I was on to the next, and I just always try to keep that mentality.
Yeah, man, Coach, you talk about the edge, right? Talk about maybe lacking a little bit when it comes to measurables. And it's not a secret. You're not the tallest, right? You're not the fastest, not the strongest.
Damn, DJ.
Hold on. He's a guest. He's a guest, right? No.
You're not that handsome.
No, it is well. But
but I do got good shoes on.
Hey, what kind of shoes?
Today,
it looked like some Kane footwear, if you ask me.
Yeah.
wow. No, but not really popping off the charts when it comes to the measurables. What do you tell an athlete that just doesn't have the measurables that pops off the chart like a Vince Young? Well, how were you able to have a legendary University of Texas career and play 12, 13 years in the NFL? That doesn't happen if what's the secret at the end of the day for you to have that amount of much success?
No, 100%. I mean, listen, I'm the shortest guy in my family. It pisses me off all the time. I tell him, I say, yeah, he's taller than me. I'm like, hey, if I was 6'4", you boys better watch out. So you got to create an edge, and then you can't measure your heart, right? You can't measure the intangibles of what's inside of you. If you want to go do it, you got to figure out a way. And again, like, the beauty of the University of Texas back then and even now is that you're going to get the elite players across the country. nothing's going to be given to you. You got to earn it every single year. Coach Brown always would pull me into his office and say, like, it's a new year, it's a new start, everything's up for grabs. You got to go win it, right? And I love to compete, right? And so if it's your heart, and if you're willing to compete, and if you're willing to do things that nobody else is going to do, like, you're going to give yourself a chance at some point. I also was a benefit of when I came into the NFL, everybody was 6'5". You look at, like, the Mannings, the Roethlisbergers, you know, and then Drew Brees is starting to play good, and then Russell Wilson starts to play good, and then you start looking at, like, okay, maybe a 6'1" guy can cut it, right? And you start seeing. Now look at the league, right? Half the league is 6'1".
Yeah.
And so I think the game has evolved a little bit from that standpoint. The game is not a true drop back, read a defense, push it down the field every snap kind of league. It's the durability, the being able to move and be athletic and get some first downs with your feet. Like, that's what the game is boiled down to. Everybody's fast. I mean, linebackers when I first got in the NFL were 6'3", 260, right?
Yeah.
Now they're 230 pounds, right? Everybody's fast, and so you got it. The game evolves, and I think there was a lot of guys, including myself, that were able to go out there and perform and play well and not be your typical 6'5", 240 kind of guy. I just was never going to be that.
Yeah. Well, Colt, when I look at you, and I think obviously we know what we know, right? Like, you brought the recruiting class down, right? you got here and you were not Vince Young, and then you scratched and clawed for everything you got. When you did get on the field, it felt like an immediate impact. You killed it, right? And I think that almost like Steph Curry in the NBA, a lot of people want to root for that, right?
Yeah.
What was one of your more fond memories as this underdog that then went on to become arguably top 2-3 greatest names ever at the University of Texas?
Yeah. Well, going into that year, my freshman year, we won the Rose Bowl, which is still the best game I've ever witnessed. You go through that offseason, it's long. I'm making myself notes. I'm putting little notes in my mirror. Like, I'm encouraging myself. Like, you can do this, right? Like, figure it out, right? And you just gotta the pressure and the expectations of playing quarterback at UT is, it's unmatched, really. I mean, there's more media at our press conferences in college than there was, maybe twice as much in some of the places I played, some of the markets. I just remember when our first game, we're playing North Texas, and I'm about as nervous I've ever been in my life, right? You got you're filling in for somebody who's just won a national championship. And Coach Davis and Coach Brown had sat me down and said, hey, look, like, you're going to start the game. But we're going to give Jevin a chance to come in and play, and y'all might switch series. Like, we'll just let it play out. And I remember walking out of that room and telling myself, like, if you let me start this game, I ain't coming home. Like, I'm not giving that up, right? And they also told me, like, hey, we realize that the zone read isn't going to be like as big a part of what we have been doing.
Why was that?
But if you can give us 5 to 6 zone reads, you don't even have to pull it. But if you can show that that's what we're doing, that needs to be part of our offense, and we think you can do it. I was like, okay. We get in that first drive of the game, and he calls zone read, and sure enough, that defensive end takes the back. And I got the ball in my hand. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I squiggle through there, and I like run past the linebacker, and then the receiver's blocking on the edge, and I sneak past by him, and I'm in the open grass, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, get down, son, get down. And I felt, you hear the crowd, like, and it was like, that gave me some, like, it just gave me a boost of, like, okay, like, I know what I can and can't do, but I'm gonna give it my best, and it was. I just remember that play like it was yesterday. Like, Vince would have scored on that play. At least I got like 20 yards.
Yeah, you got us a first down. Man.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, Colt, I got a question for you. As we've mentioned, you've had so much success at the University of Texas, but I kind of want to take it back to one of your tougher moments at the school, talking about the 2009 Rose Bowl championship national title. Man, if you were a part of that team, them first two, man, that first quarter, we knew we was going to win that game. We knew we was going to win that game before we even walked into that stadium. But unfortunately, second drive of the game, you got hit and weren't able to finish out the game. Can you kind of walk us through what that process was like and kind of where you were mentally throughout that whole situation?
Yeah, well, yeah, that was hard. I mean, I'm with you. We weren't underdogs very often at UT.
Yeah.
I mean, I could count on one hand maybe, right? You know, and when we were underdogs, we won every time.
Yeah.
There was just that's just how it was.
Yeah.
So I definitely had the confidence going in that, and so we all did, right? And to to get hit and all that kind of stuff, I'd never really been hurt before, like hurt. When I came back to the locker room, I was fighting with everybody to try to, but I knew I couldn't. There's nothing I could do, and I couldn't even take my pads off, which is why I just went back out on the field and tried to help out and be a cheerleader, right? So it was just a situation where I didn't know what to do. I'm good with me. I'm good understanding that like injuries happen and you don't want them to happen. I would never wish that on my worst enemy, for that to happen to somebody on that stage in that game. You worked so hard, but it wasn't just about me. Think about all of my teammates. Think about the coaches and their jobs and the transition and their families. Got to move now. We lost. There's just so many things that affected, and I've been wearing that for a long time, but. I care for everybody else. Nobody stepped in a huddle with anybody else at that point. Right? I've been there playing for 4 years, right? Yeah. So it was different. It was hard, like to sit there and watch, that was a tough night. But you know what? Like we all have something more to us than just a football player, right? We know our identity. We know what our faith. We know what our foundations are, and in the hardest moments like that, that's what you got to lean on.
Well, Cole, I think we have legendary SID John Bianco is in the house.
JB,
the absolute man. Give it up for him.
John.
But we had him on the show, and he talked about that moment after the game. And look, you have all these legendary plays and moments that I remember just being a fan watching you growing up. But that moment where you kind of went out in front of the cameras after that game, and the way you handled yourself and the class you handled yourself with. Was I haven't seen anything like that. To be able to handle that in a moment that was so emotional, like what was going through your head and how did you handle yourself that way?
Well, how many times have you watched a game and not only that, but like a national championship game, and they go interview the loser?
That's true.
That never happens,
does.
right? So I was trying to get back to the locker room, and it's like all of a sudden Lisa Salters is right there, and she's wanted to interview me, and I'm like, it's Alabama, everything, everywhere, but she came to me, so I was a little bit struck at that moment. But I think all the emotions. I thank God every day that I was able to handle that situation as I did, and didn't really. It was something took over me in that moment. I don't know. I think you just saw my heart, and you saw how much I cared, and you saw the disappointment, and you saw you're a competitor. We all are, and I was wearing it, but I think our team was wearing it too, and I wanted to represent that in the right way.
Colt, I want to talk about decision making, right? Obviously, there were things in your control that you had to try to figure out. There were things out of control you had to figure out. But the end of the 2008 season, right? We go to the Fiesta Bowl. We beat Ohio State 24-21. It was the last-second win, victory. Favorite play from that moment was whenever you spun off of Malcolm Jenkins, ran into the end zone, ball in the air. It's like, bro, that is my quarterback, right?
That was kind of the spark of that game, really.
We needed that.
They were good. They were really good.
Very good. And he was a first-round draft. He was top DB basically coming off of the board, and you made him look silly by using your legs, by the way. You didn't have to, you didn't have to be Vince Young. You just had to be Colt, my boy.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were able to do that. But at the end of that season, right, a decision had to come. We had Michael Taft, Mookie. Shout out to Mookie, All-American safety. We had him on the show. And we were talking about the decision to return to the University of Texas for one more year, right? Obviously, the ultimate goal is always winning a national championship. But for you, you had to weigh that heavily, right?
Yeah.
Do you enter the draft, be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the first round, second round, whatever the case, wherever you were projected to go? Or do you return, try to get that national championship, continue to improve your stock? What went into that decision to return and take Texas back to the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, well, if NIL was in the picture, it would have been a lot easier to say. I mean, listen, I just knew that I tasted that feeling as a freshman, and what that was like, and the team, and what it's going to take. And all you spent your hours on was, we made our goals, right? We wanted to win the state, right? We wanted to beat all the schools in Texas. You want to win the bowl game. And if you do all that, you get to end up, back then in the Natty. And I just felt like we could do that. I felt like I could do it. I felt like we had the team. There was going to be a lot of turnover and transition. We would have to coach up a bunch of young receivers. We were going to have to, fix some holes on both sides of the ball, but I felt like we had the squad core guys to do it. And that really, at the end of the day, was where my heart was. I knew I was slated to be a first-round pick. There was a couple quarterbacks and I that were kind of the top 2 or 3 guys, but I just couldn't get it off my heart. I love UT. I got one more year. Why would I ever do that? I didn't come to UT to go to the NFL. The NFL is a byproduct of the success we had, right? Yeah. And when I talked to my parents and I prayed about it, and I talked to Coach Brown was like, "You're not going anywhere." But it was a hard choice. It was hard to go through that, and but ultimately my heart was with my teammates. My heart was with my coaches. My heart was set on we can do this, and that's what I want to do.
Coach, I got a quick question, and they brought you next. We all have something in common. We played for legendary Coach Mack Brown, and playing for him and having a legendary career like you had, what has he meant to your success, your downfall, your adverse moments or whatnot? What has Coach Brown meant to you as a head coach?
Yeah, I'm sure the same as you guys, right? Coach Brown's a legend in every sense of the word. He meant so much to me, first of all, because he gave me a chance. That man didn't have to give me a chance. Yeah. And because of that, nothing was ever easy, right? And so what he taught me and prepared me for at UT was everything's going to be hard, but everything worth doing in life is hard.
There you go. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Coach Brown modeled that for me all the time. Never easy. You got to go earn this. You didn't practice good today. You better fix it, right? You need to speak up. You need to do better at this, right? Or sometimes, hey, you're doing good. Keep it up, right? But he was very similar to my dad in the sense of, they're both coaches, and I respect coaches, and you spend a lot of time with them, and he knows how to encourage guys. He knows how to talk to you and you and you,
that's true.
and he knows how to talk to me, right? And he never called a play when I was at UT. I'm sure he was involved at some point, but his role was much bigger than that.
Yeah,
his role impacted all of us in ways that we all have individual ways we could speak to it, but he modeled consistency and he modeled earning everything that you get every day.
Hey, Coach, I had the privilege of working with Coach Bob Shipley twice, 2-3 times a week. By the way, Goober says hi. You know what that means. That's what he told me. But it's obviously the Shipley-McCoy family connection. It runs deep and everybody knows about it. But he told me something that most people don't know, is that it was your grandparents that actually had originally a connection at ACU because they were both coaches there.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, your grandfather and then George Shipley's grandmother.
That never came out on all these sports broadcasts.
Yeah.
Everyone said the same thing.
So it's a generation even prior to your dad. But I want to ask you this, because in 2009, that connection you had with Jordan Shipley was unbelievable.
Special.
He had 116 receptions, over 1,400 yards, and nothing against the rest of the supporting cast, because we had some good players, Kirkendall on that team, Buckner, good guys. But those guys, the only threat, all right, when you played up against 18, no, really, you had to stop Jordan Shipley and Colt McCoy. Yeah. And you played good defenses. You guys played 3 top 10 defenses. Yeah. Played 4 top 40 defense. Some good defense in the Big 12 then. Nobody could stop that connection. What were you doing specifically? I want to know schematically, strategically. What were y'all doing? Because I know everybody was double teaming, triple teaming him. What were y'all doing? Was it sight adjustments? Was it option routes? Yeah. Talk ball to me, man. I got to know this.
Yeah, right. Well, nobody really played Jordan man. If he got man, he was getting somebody over the top. So Jordan got really good at figuring out soft spots and zones, right? And anytime you got singled up, I would know matchups going in the game. Like if Kirkendall was matched up, or if Marquise was matched up, or Buckner was I would give them chances, right? If you're going to put those guys on an island, these guys need to go make plays. And my job was to put in a place that they could go get it. Yeah. And they did. They did a great job. But I also had that connection with Jordan where it's like, when all else fails, like, get open.
That's your red button. Huh?
Yeah, that's the red button. And what we did do a good job of is when we lost Blaine Irby as a tight end, Jermichael graduated and left early. Him and Jamal left. Blaine Irby steps in, and when he gets that bad injury, we didn't really have a true Y tight end. Yeah. And so I give a lot of credit to Coach Davis for helping us navigate what our personnel was. Because we had guys that could run the rock, obviously, but you couldn't do it in sort of the pro style that we had lived in. We lived in a bunch of pro style stuff. And so when we spread it out, Jordan's ability to understand the Y formation and understand the X receiver and understand Z and he moving around, I would come back to the sidelines during games and being like, move them inside, or move them outside, right? Call this, right? Getting away. We started doing a bunch of stack formation things where he could get a free release off the ball, and it just we those guys around Jordan needed to produce and they needed touches, but without Jordan, it would have never worked. Yeah.
Hey, Colt. So this fall, you were able to come back and attend the UT football game, the first one in over a decade.
Yeah, me and you.
Absolutely. I didn't want to make it about myself.
But throw that out there.
But looking at the success of this program, what are your thoughts on Sark and where the program is headed?
Oh man, I love it. I think Coach Sark has done a phenomenal job. I don't think there's anybody better at recruiting talent and retaining talent. And those guys growing up to be good players. You look at the landscape of college football now, and it's like everybody just goes and plucks players and tries to build a team, right? I don't think there's anybody better of recruiting somebody and teaching them and letting them develop into the players that they are, right? So from that standpoint, I think he leads the country in that. And second of all, we've got a track record of being we're right there. So everybody wants a part of it. Everybody wants to be here. It's when you can win and you can win consistently and you can have the program that we have and the fan stadium experience with Del Con. I mean, all that is just it's all in a really good situation. Now, I look at the schedule next year, and I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of new players, there's a bunch of new guys. Arch stepping in, but you got to go win at Ohio State. You got to go to Florida. You got to go, several places that are Georgia. So I don't think the guys on this team I don't think they care at all. I think they're strapped up and ready to go, and I think that stems down from Coach Sark and what he's built and. Let's go play ball.
Absolutely.
Give me insight from the position that only you can talk about, right? We had Sam Ellinger on a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned the pressures of playing quarterback at the University of Texas, right? And for you probably are in a similar situation whenever you first took over after Vince Young, right? The pressure for you was way different than probably any other quarterback. Same way for Arch Manning, right? The pressures for him, it may be slightly different type of pressure, but after following up a quarterback that went to the semifinals 2 years straight, and as good as Quinn has been able to lead this team, how do you handle the pressures of being the guy whenever you haven't necessarily been that at the college level here at the University of Texas?
Well, I come in a little bit different situation, right? Nobody knew who I was, right? And I didn't have the expectations that these guys have, right? I redshirted. I earned my job every year, and you get to your junior and senior year, and it's kind of like, okay, now the expectations are for real. But for Quinn, top recruit, Arch, top recruit, right? They walk in sort of kind of crowned as the next guy. So that's a hard place to be and a hard place to operate, right? Hey, I don't want to tell you, I'll break some news to you, but Arch is going to throw a pick next year, right? It's going to happen, right? He's going to fumble. It's there's going to be stuff, but we can't, as a fan base and as Texas, just be oh, he's not near as good as what we thought he was. Give him a chance to go out there and lead and play, and compete, right? I saw what it did to Garrett. Let these guys learn and play, and honestly, sitting behind Quinn, who was as productive as anybody, that's helpful, right? That's really helpful. That shows, all the teams that I've been on, the teams that have a good quarterback room and that's a healthy quarterback room are the best teams, right? And Sark has somehow figured out how to make that a healthy thing with Quinn and keeping Arch here. And now Arch gets to take over. Like it's a healthy, organic system, and I think he's going to be just fine.
Well, Colt, you said something earlier. You said that had we had NIL back in the day, it probably would have made the decision a little bit easier. And it got me thinking, what would a Colt McCoy NIL package even look like after going to the Fiesta Bowl, knocking off Ohio State, and now leading a heavy national championship favorite? He
still would have had that Ford truck.
Lamborghini.
I know he still would have had that Ford truck.
Wait, time out.
Hey, I'd be driving around a Ford truck, not a Waymo. I know that. I'm at least going to drive.
Before you answer it, don't give me the Colt McCoy perfect answer, like I'm gonna donate 100% off. No. Give me the answer. What does the NIL package look like for Colt McCoy, and what you spending it on?
Oh man, I don't know, dude. I mean, it would have been a lot for sure. But I mean, it's just so wild to me. Like we couldn't get a free meal anywhere.
No, right.
There was eyeballs everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I didn't have any money, like no money, but I kept like $5 bills in my pocket when I would go to a restaurant, and the bill would come back 0.00, and I knew everybody in that building was watching me. What was that? And I pulled out a $5 bill. I put it right there. Like, hey, I'm good. I paid for my meal. Right? It just was. I was in the compliance office over and over. I said, "Show me the picture. I paid for the meal. I paid for it."
Smooth criminal.
Right? So I don't know, man. I think if we would have had NIL money, I don't know what it would have done to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
we would have seen the dark side of Colt.
You had to.
You got a new truck.
You had to grind.
Lamborghini Colt.
I still got my truck from college.
I'm not gonna lie, that might be a hazard, bro. He might want to.
I put some new tires on.
Okay.
Well, Colt, along those same lines on the sponsorship side, has anybody seen Colt's Progressive commercial, the Backups commercial?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the huge acting debut you had, and the line "I got ya." First, how many times did you have to practice that line or say it to record it? And how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, it was an all-day production. It was. They filmed it, me climbing up that ladder at every single angle, the whole day. And it was really confusing because I retired. This is my first year out of the NFL, and so we're watching games at home. My kids, I have 4 kids, 9, 8, 6, and 3. And they're trying to figure out, what are you going to do next, Dad? Like, my oldest was like, well, you're good at cooking breakfast. You could open up your own restaurant. What are you going to do? So we're going through this process of telling my kids, I'm going to take some time to figure it out. I don't really know. And then the commercial pops up, and my son's like, so you're like a bug man? Like, you're on TV. Like, what are you doing? So that's been just a hilarious sort of fall, just listening to my kids talk about that. But yeah, that was a fun little shoot. They want to do it again, so I mean, I thought it went over pretty well.
It was cool. I saw the behind-the-scenes content, like the web content.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good, man. You did a good job.
Was it just you, or did they have like all of the?
No, it was just me. I think they did them on different days.
Okay, yeah. That's sweet. Man. That's pretty.
They had my own. I had my own like big RV with TVs everywhere, food.
Let's go.
In between cuts, I just go sit in the
Hey, Colt gonna start going in there demanding stuff. I said organic. So Colt, what was one of your favorite UT memories, not game related? Like favorite football UT
off the
memories.
field
I'm
or
thinking like the trenches. I'm thinking we had Mad Dog on the show recently, so
Oh,
I'm thinking
yeah.
talk to me about
man.
the summer, the spring. What was one of your favorite memories?
I remember Mad Dog when I first got to campus that summer. He was like, "Hey, listen." He was like, "Everybody works out at 6 a.m. Say, you're gonna be in here at 5 a.m. He said, "You're gonna drink a milkshake as soon as we walk in. We're gonna work. You're gonna drink another milkshake, and then we're gonna go to the team practice at 6."
That sounds like dumb.
He was like, "You're 170 pounds." He was like, "You got to get up to 200 pounds where you can see the field." And I hated it. Oh my gosh, I hated it. But my first game, by next year I was like 198 pounds. It was like the transformation of just my mental game, my physical, like how I felt, all of it. Like a lot of that goes to Mad Dog. I mean, and his commitment, like to just, he had to be there too, right? You know, in the days he wasn't there, Shep came in there, and I hated those days. Shep wouldn't even talk to me. Lift that. You know? But that's the grind. That's what I mean. Like there was nothing's given here at the University of Texas. Everything is earned, and you just got to go get it. That's my message. I would tell anybody at UT or anybody thinking about. Like I get calls from recruits and players, and how did you? I'm like, nothing is given. Go earn it. Like just figure it out.
What other qualities would you share with somebody that's looking to become a leader, right? I remember vividly, Jay Hills was with me on that trip too. You took all of the offensive guys to Graham, where your father coached high school football. We spent an entire weekend bonding together as an offensive unit, even played 7-on-7 against your little brother's football team.
Yeah, we almost got beat.
Yeah, we almost did. We almost did, right? Case gonna try to change the story, right? But that was something that a lot of people weren't doing at that time, right? As a college student, being able to take your offense, right? It was known in the NFL. People, you know, quarterbacks had money and stuff. You didn't have money.
No.
You got a van, right? We all piled up in a van, went down 183, and we was just going. But like, what type of qualities were instilled in you to be able to take on that leadership role in that matter? And then how would you share that to some of the young athletes or individuals that's looking to take on a new leadership role?
Yeah. Well, what y'all don't know is every semester I would go take out a loan from the athletic department.
No way.
They would give me $1,000 a semester. If I didn't, I had to pay it back. I mean, it's crazy. But I would take that and be able to like have that as like emergency to like take care of the guys, right? To go out to dinner, to take a trip like that, like to try to.
That's cool.
And I wouldn't be able to do it outside of that. And I would tell the compliance, like, it's for me. I can't pay my rent. I can't. But really, it was so that I could put it in my back pocket when I needed to take care of somebody on our team or whatever, I could do it, right? And so I would say, you know, just on the leadership side, like going into that year, it was important because we had to build some, you know, there were some young guys that were going to play key roles in 2009, and they did. They played good. But they had to learn that they could do it, first of all, but also like there needed to be a more connection than just, you know, banging pads out of practice. And so we did little things like that, right? We would go to dinner, and you know, you only got one meal on campus, so like if it was McDonald's or whatever it was, like you wanted to hang with the boys. And I would just say, as a leader, like the best leaders I've seen throughout all my career, right? Everybody's different. Everybody has something about them, but the guys that always stood out to me are the guys who knew what they were doing, right? All the time. They just never messed up. And if they were kind of the coach on the field. They kind of, you know, if the nickel's supposed to blitz, the mic's telling them, hey, you got to blitz. You know, like you're in the wrong spot. You need to line up better. You know, like the guys that just carried everybody else to a standard around them were the guys that I wanted to be around. They weren't always the most vocal. They weren't always the most talented, but they were the guys that cared. And they raised everybody's standard around them, and that's what I would say. Like somebody asked me this last night. I was at a Westlake thing, and the kid's like, my coach wants me to be a leader. He's like, he wants me to be more vocal. I was like, well, if you're vocal, be vocal. But if you're not, you don't have. But you gotta know what you're doing, right? Never mess up, right? Be in the right place. Know your job. Study. Like know everybody else's position too. When somebody doesn't know, get them right. Like that will go a long ways.
Can I ask you, you accomplished your dream of going to the NFL, which is all of our dreams, going to the NFL. What was your favorite part of accomplishing that dream and your least favorite part of becoming? Because once you get to the league, you realize, like, oh, this is a job. What's your least favorite part about that dream job and your favorite part about your dream job?
Yeah. I learned about taxes real quick.
Every state?
I just remember first check and you see that top number and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that. Yeah. And then you read down and it's like half of it's gone and you're just like, what in the world, right? So that was kind of a reality check. And I would just say, like, in the NFL, we were in the NFL at Texas. Like, the expectations and the pressures for me never changed. And so, now that I'm retired, I look back on my career and I look at, like, really since I was 18 years old, the pressures and the expectations have been as high as they could be. Right? From UT to 14 years in the NFL, like, they just never change. And I ultimately feel like I was part of a lot of success, right? But the things that stick out to me are the games that we should have won, or the games that we could have won, or, even in the NFL, like, every game in the NFL comes down to the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. Like, everybody, you play to get to that moment, and then you got to make plays. And there's been many times where I did make the plays, and we did. And there's been many times where you drop down and the kicker misses the field goal, and it just, you lose, right? And so I think the beauty, somebody asked me the other day, like, what do you miss the most? Like your first year out of the NFL, like, what do you miss? And I said, like, number one, like, I miss the X's and O's. Like, that was my edge. I miss the strategy. I miss the competition of, like, putting a plan together and going and executing it. And whether that was me starting or whether that was me putting the plan together to go do it. And the number two thing, this is kind of crazy. I'm a quarterback, right? But I miss the violence, dude. I miss the put the pads on and the physicalness of walking out to practice and everybody's, like, rowdy and riled up and hitting each other, and, like, the locker, it's just a physical, violent environment, right? And when you remove yourself from that, like, you miss it, right? Like, I don't really miss getting hit and going out and playing and all, like, but I miss that feel of the locker room and it's you can't do that anywhere else, right? But it was a very special time. Most special time in my life. I think there's a lot of special things moving forward that I'm excited about. But that would be what I would say about that league.
Well, we got it. Fozzy.
Just a comment. All right, I want to shout out all my former teammates, brothers that are here. I know John here, Chris.
John.
I saw you, Miles, as well. All former teammates, man. Shout out to you all. Thanks for
also, shout out TJ Ford, Jared Elliott,
as well. Coach Elliott,
Chris Whelan,
Coach
Zach
Ogden.
Whelan.
Fozzy, I got to just tell you, thank you for recruiting Colt to the University of Texas. I don't know where Texas history would be without you in that recruiting visit, man. Thank you.
Well,
you brought MVY.
And before we wrap, shout out to all the people who help out with the show. Mark Higgins, who makes this happen.
Yeah, Higgs.
Derrick Joe, who's right here. Will Love, who's filming. Sean Coughlin, who's over there. Thank you guys so much for making this thing happen, and for Rudy for taking photos. Colt, thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody give it up.
Let's go.
That's it, guys. We always wrap the same way, and we just say hook 'em and put the horns up. So on the count of three, give us a 1, 2, 3. Hook 'em. Love it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.